Mic check. All right, welcome to the live stream. Today we'll be going over this Dame 10. I know right now it doesn't look like anything, but we're gonna go ahead and transform this bad boy right here. So this is the newly released. I'm not even sure if it's released or not, but this is the new shoe of Dame 10. I actually was gonna do the nines, but when researching, I saw that the 10 were out, so I'm like, might as well just go for that. All right, so this is just something I was doing, just a base mesh and rewrapping in all that good stuff. Let's go back. Let's go ahead and move this to another collection. All right, so this is what we got so far. See, we got our details and everything. And I'll also be dropping a video of this after I'm done modeling it. All right, so just to speed you guys up very, very quickly. So basically what I've done is, let's go ahead and open this up. The main scope. All right, so basically I just sculpted this base mesh and then just wrap the texture around it, and that's how we get this. Now, if you watch any of my videos, this is how I like to work. It's more efficient for me versus, trying to guess. It removes a lot of the guesswork out of it. Let me show you. Not that high poly, gets the job done. All right, so let's go ahead and begin. So main scope, main 3. That's interesting. I don't know why that's not lining up. Let's see. Let's close that. Let's open a couple. Oh. No, I'm not gonna lie. Adidas has really been doing their thing in terms of basketball shoes. I don't know what Nike's up to, but Adidas is definitely aesthetically, yeah, their shoes look really good. All right, let's go ahead. All right, let's hide that for now. Reason why I have so many copies because this is really a lot of iterations that I go through. So main scoped. Let's see what this one looks like. Bounds. Solid. Okay, that's the same thing. All right, so what I like to do is just in this display tab, if we just go to the object tab right here and we go down to display as, I always like to do just wire. But if wire just gets too much for me, I just go to bounds. Now we can continue to snap our faces. All right, perfect. So let's go ahead and work on the sole part. So if we look on the bottom view, let's go ahead and hide these two. Don't really need them now. All right. So one thing when you're working with a reference that you always want to keep in mind that it's not always going to be 100%. So don't worry if your side view and your reference view is not exactly lining up. And I'm going to show you how it's not going to line up for us. But let's go ahead and start working on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna take a point from this. Let's go ahead and duplicate that. P selection. Let me make sure my keys are on. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and hide that. All right, so now we have a point that already has our subdivision and solidify modifier already in. So we're just going to make sure they're not active. Let's just start moving this around. Make sure our snapping is on. Now, basically what I'm doing is I'm snapping this point onto our base scope. You can't see it right now because it's in wireframe, which is perfect. But if I move this point, you should see it snapping. All right. We're going to go to edit mode. To our view. Now, one thing that I like to do, instead of doing it like this, where we're doing like da 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 da, there's actually a better way to do that. Oh, shift as. All right, I was just testing something out. All right, so what I like to do is just run it all the way to the end right here. So you see we have the full length. And what I could do is select this and subdivide, just add a couple subdivision add a couple subdivision cuts. There you go. Now, if I grab this point and turn on proportional editing, I could just drag this down like this. And just play around with this. Actually, I'm going to want to bring that back out. I want to go into this view. All right. Then go back here and just adjust it. All right, perfect. And go ahead and leave in the comment section or the chat if you have any questions. Now, before I get going, let me turn on our other pieces. Okay, let me make sure I name that. Sure that's the right one. Okay, yep. And this front toe. Now we need our other one. All right, there we go. Now we can see how everything's lining up with each other. So just by looking at this, just need to adjust a little bit more. So I'm gonna bring this point down. There we go. Make sure they're all lined up. Go back to our point. I'm gonna do something very, very simple. So right now we're just going around. If we look at our reference, all we need to do is just go around it like this. And then flow straight into the curve. All right. So see through. Okay. All right, let's see how this lines up. Extrude that out. I'm gonna extrude the full length. There you go. And then we also just gonna select this. Now we also can do this detail, or we could just save that for the texturing. But for the sake of modeling, let's just go ahead and model it out too. All right, let me open another view so you guys see what's happening. 3D viewport. Okay, see, we don't need to be. Okay, we got to go the opposite way. So let's go delete this. Delete vertices. All right, that's fine. All right, let's go ahead and extrude that out. There we go. Perfect. Gonna do it to right there. All right, let's go ahead and extrude that out. All right, let's see how that's looking. Okay, that's looking good. Let's go ahead. Boom, boom, boom. We're just gonna go ahead and fill this in real quick. All right, let's see how we can do this part right here. Let's see. So look, what we're going to do is add a loop cut right there. Gonna make this a little bit bigger. I should need another loop cut. All right, let's see how we can make that. So what we're going to do is fill in this face, and let's see how. See how we can make that into quads, all quads. If we do something like this. Like that. Okay, nah, we just making more work for ourselves. We're just gonna add a loop cut. Turn on snapping. But let's go ahead and add it back. All right, so thank you for joining. If you're just joining, this is the shoe that we're making, the Dame 10s. Hope you guys learned something useful. So we're gonna go ahead and join that. All right, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not gonna work, but we're gonna go ahead and fill the face. And then we're just going to add a point right here and then connect it with J. So now we have all quads. Here we go. Now let's go ahead and finish filling these faces out. So we're gonna go ahead, F, fill that in, add 1 loop cut, 2 loop cuts, and we gotta merge these. All right, that's looking good so far. All right, so let's go ahead and finish this part out. Let's turn on snapping. All right, there we go. All right, let's go ahead and smooth this out. But first, what we want to do is follow this curvature right here. So let's just go ahead and fix these points. Now, less is more because once we add our subdivision, it's going to smooth out even more. All right. So let's go ahead and finish filling these faces out. We also need to straighten that out. But before we do that, let's make sure all these points are good. All right, so we're going to select this point and hitting control. That's how we select. Pick shortest path. We're going to go ahead, zero it out. And we're going to zero it out on the X. Now, this is how we get something straight. And then we're going to slide it in the opposite direction. But that's going to mess up our straightness, right? So we're just going to G and move it along the X. All right. Now we'll be adding a couple more loop cuts because right here it is a lot. Or we can see how we can reduce that. Let me see. At least maybe reduce one of them. Let's see. Let's go ahead and fill that face. Ooh, okay, running into that. Okay, let's add a loop cut right here. Now what this is gonna do is gonna allow us to connect this face. There we go. All right, so we got 1/2 of the shoe. Let's see. Let's go ahead and straighten this out just a little bit. And straighten this part out too. Let's rotate that. All right, so that's looking good so far. Let's take a look at it. There you go. Everything's fitting nice. So let's go to the side view. Now let's go ahead and turn on our modifier. See how everything's going. All right. Let me go ahead and solo it out. Now these are the type of things that you run into all the time when you're modeling. Like you get issues like this. And it's really easy to fix. What's happening is that they're not connected. So that's why we're getting into little gaps. So one thing that you could do, actually, okay. So we're just going to hit A, which is going to select everything. And all we need to do is shift N to recalculate the normals, right? We do inside. You see how it's affecting it. So that's inside and then outside, right? Now we want to look at our other piece. It should be lining up pretty well, so we need to do inside. There you go. It should be lining up. Let's see, inside, outside. All right, we're going to keep it like this. And then we'll just play around with each piece as we go forward. All right. Now it's still giving us this weird shape. So I'm just going to select everything. M. By distance, you can see that it removes 7 vertices, right? Now, if we go to back to our subdivision, you can see that everything is smooth. Now, let's go ahead and shade smooth. Not shade auto smooth. Shade smooth. There we go. Now we have that piece. Now, let's see how everything is working together. All right, not bad, not bad. We just need to adjust the points a little bit more. Okay, that's the interesting part. So let's look at our reference. The reference, please provide reference pic of the shoe. So this is the part of the shoe that we're working on. Now, if we zoom in and just look at it. So looking at our side profile and looking at this, you can see, yes, I'm only doing shoe modeling. In the next live stream, we'll be going over UV unwrapping, texturing, everything, and also adding some animations, which I think is going to be cool. All right, so let's go ahead and let's see how we could do this. So you can see we have just a little bit more thickness than the midsole right here, which is this part. Okay, so what we want to do is line it up with this. So right here, oh, you can't see anything. So right here, we want to line it up. All right, so let's go ahead and start working on that. And what we need to do is just push our midsole with sculpting in just a little bit, like in our reference image. The exact dimensions, there's no calculations going on. It's just looking at a reference image, if that's what you mean. This is the reference image right here. All right, so let's see how we're going to fix that. So we're just gonna snap it to this point. All right, take that part. All right, let's shut off our main scope real quick. Then we're gonna snap it to this. There we go. Let's turn off our subdivision real quick. Okay, this is perfect. Just need to close the gaps just a little bit. There you go. Let's close the gaps. All right, so now you can see how we just messing around with the snapping and everything. All right, so when if you just go look on my channel, I have probably about 20 videos. Nah, what did I say 20 videos? But about 10 videos on shoe modeling. If you just follow them, I promise you, after watching at least 2 videos, you'll be a master at shoe modeling, honestly. And where I just get these images from, I just go, actually have a lot of references. But if it's not a release shoe, you just got to go to any forum or any sneaker, footwear, publication, or whatever. For example, this is where I got most of the Dame 10 shoes because it's not on Adidas. I couldn't find it yet. So I just went to House of Heat. Just search up the shoe you want. Scroll down. They have a lot of images. They also have the sketches too. But if you keep scrolling down, you'll see you'll hit the product pages, right? Dame 10. And you see you get all the different angles. When you shoot, really you need both side views. You don't really need the quarter, but you need the top down and the sole of the shoe. All right. So let's go ahead and continue to adjust this. All right. So that's looking good. And we're going to adjust it with Sculpting so that it looks a little bit better than this. Because right now it looks funny. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, I think I see what's going on. So it seems like this point, take snapping off. Just need to bring this point out just a little bit so that it's smooth. So you see how it's just a straight line? We just want it to be curved a little bit. Just curve it a little bit. All right, that's looking real good. Don't worry about this. We're going to adjust that a little bit more too. All right, so once we have that part, we need to start thinking about the other details of the bottom of the sole. For example, this right here and also this line that we're going to do. Now, this is usually how I do it because we already have that information just because of the way we modeled it, right? So all we really need to do is just move our points over, right? Make sure snapping's on. Now, one mistake that I used to make when modeling footwear is doing something to one side, doing like intricate details like extruding, insetting, everything, and then trying to mirror on the other side, which can cause problems because we already have the base mesh and we just want to snap our points to the base mesh when we're mirroring it. So for this example, let's just go ahead and mirror it and then do all the insetting and then insetting and then extruding. Okay, we don't want that. What's going? Okay, I know why. Gotta turn on our main scope. All right, let's make sure we're getting proper details. So I'm just gonna select the bottom. All right, so this is what's throwing me off. So let's go to this view real quick. Okay, I see. So we're gonna turn this off. All right, let's turn this back on. All right, so we're gonna fix that with sculpting. So let's just go ahead and move this around with move these points. Let's see what's going on. Let's see if they snap to the face or not. Okay, 3. Boom. Let's hide this real quick. The name in it, so that's fine. Let's hide it real quick. I'm gonna take this and just boom. All right, making sure that nothing funny is going on. All right, so let's go ahead and activate that again. Okay, we can see that it's a little bit closer and a little bit. We're gonna turn off snapping and just hop in the sculpt mode real quick. We're just gonna bring this point back a little bit, just like that. All right, and then we're also gonna bring this point down. All right, so let's take our sole. Okay, what I'm trying to figure out is this. All right, let me turn on our base mesh so we can see the visibility of it. So go ahead to bounds, go ahead to solid. All right, so that's what I wanted to see. All right, let me just turn on wire real quick. Okay, let me turn this back on. Viewport display. Okay, so I see a issue. So our sole right here needs to follow the base mesh. So we're gonna have to just take each point and just snap it onto the face of our base mesh right here. All right, let's go ahead and change the visibility of that. Yeah, software is Blender 3D. All right, made that solid. We're gonna go back to bounds. All right, I was wondering why that was off. Let's go ahead and all right, so you can see how it's adjusting those now. Let's go in this view. So basically what I'm doing is just snapping into that base mesh. All right, there you go. That looks much better now. Now what we can do, just move this out like that. All right, we're gonna turn off snapping off for this one. Just move it manually. Bring it down just a little bit. All right, so we should have just a little bit more thickness. If we look at our reference right here, you see it's kind of overhanging, right? So we need to make sure that it's doing that. There you go. No, for texturing, it's not Blender, it's Substance Painter. Once we get the sole and everything, I'll show you guys some cool things in Substance Painter. So stay along for the ride. Let's go ahead and just finish out this sole, and then we'll do a quick texturing demo in Substance Painter really quick, so you guys can see how everything is working together. And actually, I might just do the sole really quickly. All right, so let me go ahead and finish the sole, and then we're gonna go ahead and UV unwrap it and then export it into Substance Painter, just so that we can see how, because Substance Painter is extremely powerful. I know it gets a lot of hate because of the subscription-based model, but it's really, once you actually get the grasp, it's really fun to work in. I do like working in Blender for texturing and everything, like making the procedural, but Substance Painter, it has its advantages. All right, so let's go ahead and finish working on the sole, and it's looking pretty good. So let's go ahead and just mirror everything. Now, one trick that my friend taught me is that, let's see, how do we want to do this? All right, let's go ahead and just duplicate this. Every time you're modeling, you have to duplicate. You don't really have to, but it's recommended because sometimes you want to go back and you can't use the shortcut, Control Z to go back as far as you want. So always make a copy just in case you need to go back to a previous part of the model of the shoe, right? All right, so we're just going to move this to copy. There we go. All right, so we don't need to mirror this because it's already mirrored. So let's go ahead and we're gonna duplicate this. So once it's duplicated, all we want to do is right click, mirror, global X. And there you go. It makes a almost perfect. Remember that, almost perfect. So what we need to do is, this is what I was talking about when, before you do any intricate details or anything, mirror it, because you run into issues like this where I need to snap these faces, well, these vertices onto my base mesh, but I can't just, select all of them and then let's turn on snapping so you guys can see what I'm talking about. I can't do this because it's going to flatten the design out. But you see that we want that curvature. So what we need to do is, honestly, we can use a scope mode or we can use a lattice. Now, when we're using the lattice, we have this right here. So I'm going to Shift S, origin to, we're going to go cursor to selected, right? Actually, we need to change the origin. Okay, origin to geometry. No. Okay, that's fine. So what we're going to do is Shift S, cursor to selected. Okay, hold on. Let me change. Okay, is that better? All right, so we're going to select this and we're just going to create a mesh, right? So once we have that, we're going to, right? Boom. Let's hide this real quick. Okay, you know what? For this purpose, we're just going to go into scope mode. We're not even going to worry about the lattice or anything like that. So we're going to go into scope mode, and basically we're just going to take the grab brush and we're just going to push and pull this part, right? So just so that it fits to the curvature of the shoe. All right. So F, let's make it a little bit bigger. So we're going to push it in. All right, so that's the issue that I don't want to happen. There it is, something around there. I want to take this part. All right. All right, so let's just go ahead and move this part right here. So you can see how it can get really messy really quick if you don't plan out your shoe. Now, what I should have done is first duplicated it first and then do this, right? So this is just one way to go. All right, we're just going to adjust it till it looks good. And then what we can do just to make it a little bit more smoother. All right. I appreciate it, Nathan P. Appreciate it. All right, what we're going to do is just snap these, right? So this is going to help our shape just a little bit better. All right, snap those. Snap that. And then what we also can do for this up here, we can snap it, right? And we technically can just select all of these, right? Wait, let me make sure. Select that too. And then we could just snap it on. Boom. And also for our back, okay, let's see. All right, best way to do this. First, let's look at the reference of our back. Okay, boom. So we need to just curve this out just a little bit. So what we're going to do, we're just going to go ahead and delete these faces. All right, so when we join these together, you'll see how they are going to be. All right, perfect. So let's go ahead and continue to refine this shape. Okay, that's what we don't want right here. Okay, what's going on here? Let's turn on our subdivision modifier, see what's going on here. So this is what I'm talking about. Like it really it really just makes your process a little bit more time consuming when you have, you know, extrusion and everything. Because if it was just flat, we could just project it onto the mesh and just extrude what we wanted to. But let's see. All right, you know what? That might not be bad. Let's see how it looks. All right, so just looking at this. All right, let's turn this off real quick. All right, let's see. Turn on snapping real quick. Let's see something real quick. Okay, I see what's going on here. So after snapping that, we're just going to have to bring that face out just a little bit. And we're just going to go ahead and snap this point too. All right, there we go. Now everything is looking just a little bit better. Now let's see how these are. There we go. All right, let's turn off snapping real quick because we have some intersecting points. And if we turn off our view, you can see why. Because this is going forward and that's going backwards, right? All right, let's just move this just forward a little bit. There we go. All right, so let's see how this looks. All right, so this needs to be adjusted. This right here. Yep. So with snapping turned off, we're just going to adjust this a little bit. Like right there. And if we look at... All right, let's take a look at this side, right? Okay, we can see that it's pretty deep. And we go back over here, you can see that it's not as deep as the other side. So one thing that we're going to need to do is go ahead and select these points. All right, that's fine. And then we're going to push it in GX. Now, the more we do this, the more it's going to be more pronounced, right? Turn this on. All right, so that looks good so far. So let's go ahead and mirror this. We can go ahead and hide. Let's go ahead and mirror this first. Hold on. So, okay. Now we're going to actually join these. So let me go ahead and delete these points. I'm deleting all these points right here. And then I'm going to straighten this point out, these points right here. So S, just going to straighten these out. All right, let me solo this out so I can see what's going on. This is not looking good. Okay. Boom. All right. So with that, all right, let's go ahead and mirror these. Not mirror, but let's go ahead and join them together. All right, so we're going to select these two. Before we mirror them, let's delete this side. All right, let's delete that. X, faces. Now we can go ahead and join them. Actually, we need same thing we did on the other side. Let's just fix these points real quick. So we're going to take a point and just drag it over G, slide it over. I'm going to slide this back over too. All right, once we connect them, we'll better line them up. All right, so let's go ahead and join them together. Control J. Now you can see once we join them, you can see how it changes. Let me make sure both of them are on. All right, let's Command J. And then what we need to do is go into edit mode, and then we need to shift in, and that's going to recalculate the normals. So you're going to have to recalculate the normals a lot when you're working on this. So let's go ahead and connect these points together. So we can do face. All right, there you go. Actually, I want to see how they look joined. So let's go ahead and join them real quick. Now, like I said, it's really honestly a lot of trial and error when you're doing this. I don't want that at this point right here. Because if we look at the shading, see, the shading looks terrible. So what I'm going to do is spell that part out. Boom. And then that's also going to create some issues there. See how this looks all around. Add that here. Let's go back real quick. Okay, I guess we'll just keep that. Dang, but the shading does not look good. Let's just merge it up and we'll worry about that later. So just selecting each point, just merging them together. Now, if you see the shortcut is 8, I just mapped it to 8. But the original shortcut, you just hit M, merge at center. All right. Actually, you know what we could do? Hit J. Just connect these faces. J, connect those faces. Let's see. Oh, okay. I know what we're going to do. So what we need to do, you see how we have, hold on. All right. So we have these triangles, what we don't want. But that is a extremely quick fix. So we're just going to subdivide and drag this point. You can do this with the knife tool if you want. Just going to hit J. Boom, like that. Gonna go ahead and subdivide that. Just bring this over. Go ahead, hit J. Boom. Right? So now just to remove them, all we need to do is just select them. So while holding shift and clicking, we're gonna go ahead and hit X, dissolve edges. Boom. Now we have those quads, and we just need to fix them so they're smoother. Okay, let's just bring this down. Right there. Bring this point out. All right, let's go ahead and do the same thing up here. So let's do knife. Okay, for knife tool. Now we're just gonna remove these points. There we go. All right, so since we got that, it's looking pretty good. Just need a little finer adjustments or whatever. But the base is looking good. Let's go look at our back. So just putting our reference close. Okay, one thing we can do. So take our scope and we just want to bring this like this. Okay, so one thing I'm noticing. So you can see how our curvature goes like this, right? And it flows into this. But in our reference, it flows pretty straight. So one thing that we need to do is just redirect it. So let's see if we could just move it like this, move this point up like that, and move this point up. Now let's see how that looks. Okay, that looks much better. But it is a little too tight. But it does look better. All right, so how can we smooth this very sharp edge, right? Why is creating those sharp edges? You'll see. So the reason it's creating that very strong peak is because we have our points very close to each other, right? So to smooth it out, we could either just bring these points in. So just hitting that point and hitting the last one. We could just bring it in a little bit. So why? Just bring them in. And then if we turn our subdivision back on, you can see it kind of smooths it out, right? Now, if I'm looking, there's something off about, yep. So if we're looking at our top view, this point is incorrect. We have to fix that because it's causing some weird shading. And if I change, let's see, change it to here, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's giving that pointy. So what I want to do, let's go into edit mode, right? I'm going to turn off my modifier. Let's see how we can fix that. Select these, right click, smooth vertices. That's going to smooth it out for us. Can also do it for this. So I'm going to do that manually, right? Let's go and rotate that so it's a little straighter. Oh. Slide that over just a little bit. So bring that down. Slide this over just a little bit. All right, so this point is still looking a little bit off. Let's turn our subdivision modifier back on. So we're going to select that. What we're going to do is just put it out just a little bit because these points are just collapsing in too much. Let's straighten this out too. There we go. All right, let's see how we can take this off. Because that side is looking just a little bit thicker than this side, right? All right, so we're going to turn on snapping real quick. And we're going to make sure that these are snapped properly. Okay, that's probably the issue right there. All right, so let's fix this side because it's too straight for me. All right, let's look down. Turn off snapping real quick. So we need to just move these points outwards, right? So let's just select them. Select this. All right, so now you can see how it's moving that out, right? Make sure the bottom looks good also. Sliding them with G, double G. All right. I know that was a lot of tweaking, but it's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and please share reference pic so we can follow along. What do you mean by, hold on, let me see. There's only one way that I can share the reference, and are you only making shoe model? Yes, right now I'm only making the shoe model, and I'm going to do a quick texturing demo. We're going to unwrap the base of the sole and then do it in Substance Painter really quick and see how we can go from something that looks really plain to something that looks really nice. All right, so let's go ahead and duplicate this side of the sole, right? So I'm going to mirror it on the X. All right, and then so we just mirrored it on the X, right? Oh yes, I'll share it right now. Hold on. All right, so if you go to this website, I'm about to put it in the chat right now. You guys can just download it and follow along with everything. So this is where, if you go to this website, houseofheat.co, you'll get a lot of reference images. All right. Let's go ahead and finish the sole so we can unwrap this. All right, so once we got that, so once we mirrored it across, you can see there's some adjustments that we need to do, right? So I'm going to select this back first. And then with snapping enabled, I'm just going to move it. There you go, just snap it to there. All right, so we're going to need to snap this also. So select all these points. Now you have to make sure when you're snapping faces, you can't select anything that's on a curve like this, right? Because the snapping, I'll show you what it's going to do, right? So let's say we select this whole, the top of our mesh, right? So if I just go snap, you can see how this is not doing what we want it to do, right? So usually what you have to do is just every plane that you want to snap to, you have to do it in sections, right? So since this is a flat plane, and just so you guys understand what I'm saying, so this would be one plane, right? So you would select all the points on here and then snap it to the face, right? Then you would take this plane, and from this view, you will snap these faces. And for any other view, you'll just go to an angle where it's like a 3/4 angle, and then you'll snap it. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and finish snapping this on. All right. let's snap this. Make sure our main scope is activated. Boom. All right. Then we're going to go ahead and select this. That's very interesting. All right. All right, so let's go to this right here. So it's doing something a little funny that I don't like. So this is why I always have to just double check what you're doing, honestly. So we're gonna go back to solid. Oh, okay, I see what's going on here. Okay. So this is actually what we're snapping onto. No, I don't have any course, but if you want to check out my Patreon, go ahead and check that out. A lot more information on there. All right. So let's go ahead and snap these faces. All right, there you go. That looks much better. Now let's bring this back to wire. No, the texture balance. Okay. All right, so now it's fitting better. I don't know why it was doing that before. Okay, that looks better, much better. Let's see what's going on here. Let's see. Okay, that's interesting. Let me see. Okay, for for modeling, it honestly depends. But moving forward for me, I'm going to try to model less of the shoe and let the texturing do more of the heavy lifting. But for this example, honestly, if we just look at the sole, you honestly could just make this a plane, right? Just extrude a couple points, whatever. You don't have to worry about these details because you can honestly do that in your texturing, right? All these details right here, you could do that in texturing. But sometimes it is a little bit better to just model it out if it's a really simple detail. And I'll show you guys how to do that. Let's see. Just make sure this is good. All right. So what we're going to do is just snap these. Gonna move these points out. Okay, let's move these points out. There you go. All right, that looks good. All right, so now that we have them at a good spot, let's go ahead and Gonna select this other part that we duplicated. Gonna go ahead and Control J and make sure we go back to edit mode, Shift N, and then we're just gonna merge these points. Now, a trick that you can do, you just select all of them, merge by distance, and just crank this up until they merged, like that. All right, one thing that I want to do over here, because this looks messed up for some reason. I'm pretty sure it's when we snapped, right? So let's just slide this over. So when you're modeling, you always want clean topology, right? You don't want your mesh looking like this, looking like a hot garbage. You don't want that, right? It's not good for texturing. It's not good for presentation. It's not good for the shading of the shoe. It's really good for nothing. So make sure that you get it as straight as you can so that your model is looking nice and even. For example, like this. Just slide that over. All right, everything is looking decent, right? Okay, why is this point over here? I have no idea. So let's just slide that over. All right. Make sure everything looks good. And then put this point up. And then, all right, let's see how it looks. Okay. All right. So let's take these points right here. Gonna hit J, and we're just gonna bring it in just like right there, right? So we just have a little bit hanging over. And then for this point right here, I'm gonna bring it back just a little bit. And then this right here. Okay, see how we have this gap right here? We have to close this gap, right? Let's see the reference. So one trick that you can do is go into wireframe mode, and then you'll have a better view of everything, right? But sometimes I still, so that's why I always have the reference loaded in here right here. So I could just look at it very quickly, all right? Okay, we want to make sure that we're not selecting anything on this side, right? So let's get out. Let's go back to solid, and we're just gonna take this point, bring it up. Or we could just snap it to this right here. There you go. Snap that. Snap that. Snap that. And then sometimes snapping doesn't work because it's extruded, but boom. We can get it like that. And then just drop these points down just a little bit. Right there. And then we also can move it forward. There you go. Let's move this forward a little bit too. All right, let's see what's going on with these points. So I'm going to turn on snapping. Let's see if that changes anything. All right, so we're just going to have to manually do that. Let's turn off snapping. Just bring these points out. Also gonna want to do it for these two. We're just moving that out. All right, so let's go look and see how everything is looking all together, right? Okay. Okay, everything is looking pretty good. And one thing that I love to do is just go into cycles. Let me make sure that it's activated. It's EV cycles. Turn the GPU experimental. And then what I like to do is just hit this little icon right here. And in the render passes where it says combined, we're gonna go to ambient occlusion. All right. So reason why I like to do this is because now we can see where our gaps is and where we need to adjust it. For example, like this right here, we have to fix. All right, this looks good. Let me make sure denosing is on. Sampling. Okay. Okay, no denoising in. Let's call it, yep. All right. So let's go back and let's just go ahead and fix those points really quick. All right, let's make sure that we are on target. There we go. So we're gonna take this point, turn on snapping. We're just gonna snap to the face. I'll take these points, snap to the face, boom. All right, yep, that looks good. Take that point, and we're also gonna take this point. So for the textures of the shoe, which I'm gonna show you guys in about 5 minutes after I unwrap this model, I'm going to be creating the textures in Substance. They have a whole bunch of libraries, but for example, what's really going to be cool is creating this pattern shape right here. I'm going to show you how to do that in Substance Painter with a couple of their already activated textures. But if we can't get this exact pattern or whatever in Substance Painter, we're going to go to Substance Designer, which is a node-based system that's pretty similar to Blender shader nodes, honestly. If you know the shader nodes, Blender Substance Designer is honestly the same thing. All right. Let's see. I'm not digging this. Like, hold on. Okay, this needs to come out a little bit more. There we go, just a little bit. All right, that looks good. Now we need to do the same thing to this side. All right, so let's see. So basically what I'm doing right now is just making sure that all the pieces of our shoe lines up together. All right, so let's go ahead and create those extra details now. Make sure that side's good. I guess we can go. No, that side is okay. Okay, let's just bring this. All right, there is good. All right, so now let's work on the sole real quick. Our first thing, we could just do this in Substance Painter versus doing it like this. All right, so let's go ahead and unwrap these so that we can send this off the Substance Painter so we can start texturing it. So I'm going to just do a final check like that. Turn off snapping real quick. We're just going to adjust this. Select this point, just move that over, right? And we can slide it also like this. Put that up. Slide this point over. And then just bring this down. All right, we need to fill this part in. I just want a little gap right here. All right, I think that looks good so far, right? All the pieces are together, nothing looking crazy. All right, everything looks good. Let's see how it looks from the front, top. Oh, let's adjust this piece a little bit. There we go. All right, perfect. So now that we have that, let's just add a little bit geometry right here to fill in this gap. Let's bring this down just a small tad. I need to turn on my modifiers so I can see exactly what I'm doing. So we're going to bring these down. I'm turn on snapping for this. Turn off snapping. Bring that back out. Because if we look at our reference, it's not entirely connected, right? We have that little gap right there. All right, so let's just create a geometry behind it real quick. Gonna take these points, Shift D, P, selection. All we did is just copied it. So now what we could do is Bring this back. Basically, what I'm going to be doing is just creating a little bit of geometry just to fill that in, right? Go to X-ray mode real quick. And take this. Boom. Like, it really doesn't need to be fancy or anything. Maybe add one loop cut. And then bring this down. So as you can see, it's honestly really just tweaking, honestly. Once you get the base, I promise you guys, once you understand the principles of just following the reference, if you have a reference, you can model anything. I don't care if you're a beginner, if you just picked up Blender, I promise you, all you really need is a reference and just some principles. Once you have those, you're set. Let's just go add another loop cut right there and just bring this down just a little bit right there. All right, so now you can see we filled that in. All right, let's bring this forward like that. All right, and we're just gonna duplicate this little piece. Boom, mirror, global X. And then we're going to use scope for this, right? Just going to put it into place. Put the strength up a little bit. There we go. And then bring this back down. All right, so now you can see we filled in. And if we go to random, you can see all the pieces that we've created, right? So with that, we're going to go ahead and duplicate this. And we're going to move it to a collection called UV Unwrap. Now, to unwrap it is mad easy, right? But hold on. I'm going to go ahead and hide these. Make sure that they're named properly. Okay. Yep. I'm just going to go ahead and hide these. Then I'm going to go back to my UV Unwrap. So we're going to quickly unwrap this. So let's go into UV Editor. And then we have to just set up the texture real quick. All right, so we're going to give it a new material. Actually, we already have a material for the UV Unwrap. There you go. It's a Udom texture. If you don't know what Udom is, I am dropping a video this week about Udom texture. I promise you, it's a game changer. All right, so with that selected, we have to go to view. Gotta go to textured. Okay, perfect. Now you don't see the UV coordinates, but once it is just applied. Yep. Okay. All right. So we're just gonna hit U unwrap. Smart UV unwrap angle base, minimum stretch. All right. So you can see how it unwrapped it. Now we don't need a perfect wrap. This is going to be okay. It's gonna be fine. All right, so let's go ahead to our next one. Gonna select it. Gonna make sure that our textures are applied. There we go. You unwrap. Unwrap minimal stretch. See how that looks. Now, because let's look at our reference real quick. Look at the back. Okay, there's no seam. Do I really want to add a seam in the back? Let me see. You know what? But we're not gonna add a scene in the back. We're not gonna do that. So we're just gonna slide this over so it's not intersecting with our other pieces. All right, so that's set. Now let's go ahead and unwrap this. Make sure that the texture is applied. So unwrap. We're gonna go minimum stretch. Now the reason why I'm not adding any loop cuts or anything is because we modeled each piece from a plane. So that's why it's so easy to unwrap. I'm just gonna slide this over here. All right. Okay, that's fine. And then last thing, I'm gonna take our in-between pieces. In-between pieces. One right here and then the other one. I'll go ahead and select it. Now with those two pieces, we're gonna make sure we hit Control J. And then make sure we go to edit mode and then Shift N. Then let's just go ahead and solo this out. I'm gonna make sure we add that. So just to set up this UV projection, whatever, is mad easy. All you gotta do is go into your shader. Gonna go Shift A. You're gonna create an image texture. You're gonna hit new, whatever, name it whatever, blank UV. So it's gonna be blank by default. You wanna go to UV and just new image, and it will create this pattern. And the reason why this is important when you're unwrapping your model is because the size of the squares of the UVs actually tell you how much detail you can fit into there. So the larger, let me show you guys. All right, go back to edit mode. Let me unwrap this real quick. So you unwrap, minimal stretch. All right. So if we look at this, you see how, let me get out of this view. So you see how tight this is. That means when we apply our texture, we're able to add more detail because we have more space, right? So if we look at the midsole, right here, you can see how we don't have that much space, so the squares are larger. So when the squares are larger like this, if we want the really, really fine details, it's gonna be hard because there's not enough space to work on versus, hold on, let me show you. See, I need to move these over, so. All right. So let's select everything. All right, let's see. So I don't want these overlapping, so just gonna select them, Control L. I'm gonna move them over. Actually, you might need to move them to the third one. It's fine for this example. It's fine. All right. So you see this little sliver, right? It's this UVs right here. If we actually scale it down, you can see it's getting larger. Now, once it gets too big and we apply those really fine details, for example, if we look at our sole right here, all these little fine details, it might lose its quality because there's not enough space for the texture to be, right? So we're going to leave that. All right, so everything looks good. We're going to go ahead and Control J. Going to join everything. I want it to the front. It's fine. Control J. Control J. Now I want to make sure that everything is still good, so recalculate the normals. All right, everything looks good. So we're ready to export this, right? So everything is looking good. All right, perfect. So one thing that we're going to do is just go to File, Export. So to prevent the shading and pinching is really on how you're modeling your object, right? So the reason why you get pinching, I'll show you real quick. There's not really any pinching on my model. Let me see. Let's go to MatCap. Let's go to all right, the reason why there's no pinching on this model is because we mainly have quad topology. Now, you do have some weird shading right here, but that's because of how the curvature is. But that's fine. All right, everything's looking good. So let's go ahead and export this, right? So we're going to go to File, Export, Wavefront OBJ. I already have a test, but that's fine. OBJ. I'm going to save it as OBJ. All right, we're going to do selection only. We're just going to call this Dame 10. Apply modifiers. Everything looks good. Export OBJ. All right, so let's go ahead and open Substance. No, that's the wrong program. Okay, Substance Painter. Okay, how to prevent shoe. Okay, sample list. Close out of that. All right, from where will you get exact textures to apply on the shoe model? I'm about to show you that right now. All right, so let's go ahead and open up our model. So we're gonna go to New. All right, we're gonna do 2K. We're gonna go to File, Select. We're gonna go to Blender, OBJ, Dame 10, Open. Okay. All right, so you can see we have our model loaded in, right? And I just like to do a quick test, make sure everything is good. All right, we can cover this. All right. So the first thing that I like to do, let's work on actually the bottom of the shoe. So let's look at it. All right, the sole. So we're gonna put this. Let's put this right here. So all these, what I like to do is just add just a basic material. So these are all free and they come with Substance Painter, right? So I just like to type in rubber. See what we get, just apply it. All right, so this is what I was talking about with the UV squares. So you can see when we apply this texture, you can see that this amount of detail is different than this. And this amount of detail is different with this. That's because our UVs aren't really identical in terms of size, right? So that's why as soon as we apply this, this is bigger than the front. And this little in between is smaller than the rest because it has more space to towel on. But if we bring this down, you can see our texture is getting small, but it's also getting small on the other pieces, which we generally don't want. So that could be a quick fix, but we're just going to continue to move forward. All right, so this plastic, I don't like this one. So we're going to go ahead to Rubber Raw. All right, so I usually use Rubber Raw because it has nice little details and everything. So that's fine, right? So let's start working on the sole right here. All right, you can see we have this part. Okay. All right. Let me change. So to change the lighting. Now, I remember there's a trick for the lighting because I always have this problem when I'm doing the bottom of the sole where it's just dark. And I actually need to light this, but I don't remember exactly how to do that. Mode. So we're not going to worry about that too much. All right, so let's just go ahead and start. So the first thing that I want to do is this kind of outline, right? So from here all the way here. Now, one thing that we can do is we have to separate these because right now it's just one whole mesh. Now, this is the power of Substance and also Udemy textures, which is just 1, 2, 3. So we're going to go ahead and create a group. Now, in this group, we're going to generate a black mask. And in our black mask, if we click it, right click, we're going to add a paint layer, right? And then with our paint layer, now we can go ahead and select what we want to paint out. With the polygon fill tool, we're going to go to UVs. Now make sure this is okay. All right. So now you can see that's maxed out, right? Now we want to do this for each part, right? So this will be so. All right, and then we're going to create another folder. I'm going to call it mid. And then another folder in between. Just going to say NB. That's fine. And then we're going to have another folder for, just going to call it sole. Got caps on. All right, so we got toe, mid, in between, and sole. So for the mid, gonna do the same thing. Add black mask. And we're gonna add a paint layer. Now you can't see anything because we don't have a texture within this. So if we just do this carpet shade material, right? And we put it into the mid, you'll see. All right, so that's good, right? So we're gonna move it to the in-between part. We're gonna add a black mask, right? Because we want to mask out this part. And we're gonna go to our UVs. We're gonna right click this, add paint. Boom. Make sure the same thing over here. So that's good. Now we're gonna go to our sole. And we're going to do the same process, add black mask. We're going to right click, add paint, and boom. So now each part of these are separated. So now we can do different operations and it's not going to affect the other part of the shoe. All right. So that's good. So now I'm just going to copy this rubber raw into all of them. Actually, I'm just gonna put the rubber raw on top. Will that work? Let's see. Control 4 is to redo. I guess we're just gonna do it like this. Just gonna duplicate these. Add a black mask. Add paint layer. Then just click the sole. There we go. Okay, that's good. That part's good. Just gotta duplicate this one right here. All right. So everything has the same texture. So let's go ahead and work on this little slit right here. Now, a cool tool that we can use, we need to go to our toe. And we're going to go ahead and... So our toe is good. We're going to go into our actual folder, right? And we're going to create a fill layer. Now, for our fill layer, we're going to turn on height. And then we're going to bring it down because we want to engrave into the sole, right? So let me show you what this does, right? So what this fill, hold on, no, not fill. Okay, there we go. So we want fill layer to go into here, right? Boom. That's for the toe. And we're going to turn on height and normal. And we're going to bring the height just down a little bit, right? So now, this is the cool part, right? So now that we have that set, we're going to right click it and we're going to add a black mask, right? So now everything that I paint in this mask is going to reveal. So let's go add a paint. It's going to be on white because we're going to reveal it. We're going to go to our paint mode. There you go. Now you can't really see the depth. So let me go ahead and... So now if I do this, you can kind of see it, right? Let's go to paint. So now you can see that we have some type of height information. All right. But instead of using our regular paint, we're going to use a polygon pen tool, right? Path tool. And we're just going to get the general shape. So we're going to start about here. There we go. Now, the cool thing about the path tools versus, actually painting with your regular brush is that you have more control. If you were just to paint it, you don't have that much flexibility, right? But with the path tools, one thing that you could do is you can control the size, right? And if we just click this little icon right here, let's see what we've done. Perfect. And now we can really just eyeball it and get a finer shape. So just taking this, maybe bring this down. Maybe bring this like here. Add a point right here. Bring this point up like this. There we go. And then let's bring this point down. Like right there. All right. But instead, we need to make this just a little bit thinner. So I'm going to show you guys what's happening, right? So if we look at our mask, we're literally just drawing a white painted stroke on our mask, and it's revealing whatever is masking, whatever it's masking out, right? For now, it's just this black, but we don't actually need the color, right? So now you can see how we're getting that detail. But you can see that it's extruding in, but we need it to extrude out. So for our fill layer right here, now it's usually kind of tough because it's so flat. you can't really tell, okay, is it extruding in or is it extruding out, right? So one thing that we need to do, actually, is extruding inwards, right? Because we're going negative. If we want it positive, we're pushing it out, right? So now what we need to do is do the same thing, but on this part of the sole, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So we're just gonna right click, not even right click. I'm gonna use shortcuts, guys. Control C. We're gonna Control C. Then we're gonna go to our mid, not our mid. We want to go all the way to our sole, right? And we're just gonna paste this into here, and we're gonna name this. Just put indent. It's fine. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and click on our paths. Now, the cool thing about paths, you can just move the points, right? So if I select on the path, right, and I select all of them, I can go. I should be able to. Where's the tool at? Okay, right here. We should just be able to slide this down. Now you can see how it's affecting this, right? And now we just need to adjust the points. Okay. Okay, let's rotate it. There we go. All right, so let's turn off the rotate. Now we're just gonna adjust the points. Now I'm going to turn on the color so you guys can see it a little bit better of what we're doing. Now, if you have any questions about Substance Painter, just leave it in the comment section, the chat, and I'll make sure to answer it. All right, so we're going to go back to our points, and we're just going to bring this in, right? We're just going to match the sole as best as we can. There you go. Now, if we just turn off our color, hold on, let me see something real quick. Oh, textures, edit. Main shader, horizon, fading, base surface. So let's go ahead and bring the scale up here, bring the tessellation. So basically what this is now we can see how it's operating now. Point 1 is fine. So now you can see we're getting that. The reason I don't like to turn it on too early is because it does slow your PC down. All right, so we could just turn that off for now. Right, and just bring this back to 1. All right, perfect. Check something out real quick, guys.
Dimmer, and rotation just controls the light around your work. This is exactly the same as holding shift and right click to drag and rotate the light normally. Now at any point you can change the environment by clicking on it and selecting a different one here. This is great to help you make sure that the textures look right in the environment you expect them to be during render. If you're working on a scene in the desert, then it's probably best you set the environment to a desert while you're working here in Substance. Normally alignment is set to the world, but if
Hold on. Blur, rotation, world alignment. There we go. Okay, now we can see a little bit better. There we go. Now we can see the soul much better. All right. Okay. So let's line this up. All right, let's line this up. So, and then let's click our mask, paint. I'm gonna go ahead and select this. Just gonna bring it to about right here. All right, that looks good. Now, one issue we might run into is that this indent looks a little bit different than how we've actually modeled this, right? We can tell that our model is a little bit softer than what we actually needed. Needs to be a little. Could we still do it? Let me think. It's fine. Okay. So what we're going to do is create another paint layer. Add paint. And then now, let's see how we want to do this, okay? Actually, we're not going to do another paint layer. I'm going to use the existing one. And then we're going to so for this, it's going to turn on this right here. There we go. And we're just going to have these fine little points. Then we're going to also select this. We're going to go up to custom tangent. There we go. There we go, custom tangent. I'm going to take this point. Keeps adding the point. That's not what I want. No, I want to adjust this. Okay. There we go. Just want to drag this in. And then we just want to connect it here. And then we just going to boom. I want to take this point, make it a custom tangent, and do the same thing, right? All right, and then if we hit this little icon right here, which is the show hide and viewport. All right, so we just need to adjust these points just a little bit. Also, we want to make this a little bit smoother. So let's bring this out. And then want to bring a point back like this. bring these in to make it a little bit smoother. And I'm going to select all of these. Just move them up just a little bit. All right. So we're getting that base shape, but we need to adjust a little bit more. So we're going to use this, and we're just going to slide it over. Slide it over like that. All right, right there looks pretty good. All right, so now you can see we got that base shape. Okay, let's go back to our toe real quick. We're just going to adjust the point just a little bit. There you go. And we're also going to do this point right here. Just drag it all the way out. Now, one thing I'm noticing, let's see if we can actually... That might be a stretch, but let's see if we can finesse this somehow. Let's go ahead and add another paint. All right. Start right here. Just so that it's really consistent with everything. And if we look at the side view, it's a good side view right here. All right, there's fine. Actually, no, that might actually work. Hold on. This might actually work for real. Just carving out the side of it. Try this point out. And then what we can do is just make it smaller, right? Let's see how it looks. Okay, that's not bad. We're gonna go ahead and use that. Might need to do it on this side too. Let me see. It's fine. It's fine. We'll use this. All right. So now that we have our base, let's just go ahead and look at our sole. Okay, so we got that down. We got that down. Now what we need to do is just make these little indents right here, right? See how have just a little bit of extrusion right here going on, and this goes all the way out. So that's actually gonna be pretty cool to do. All right, let's see a side view real quick. All right. So in order to do that, we're going to be using the paint, but we're going to make it actually another layer. So we got our indent. Going to just duplicate this layer. Boom. And then for first path, we're just going to remove it. All right. So let's go ahead and create another path. I'm not sure why that's not working, but whatever. We'll just add another paint. Add the long pass. All right, there we go. So we're gonna actually start on this side right here, because if we look at our reference image, let's look at a good side view. It's very, 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 very subtle, but you see that it fades into the shoe, right? So how we're going to do that? I'm going to start about here. That's fine. Then we're just going to follow this. It's okay to just do it a little bit rough. That's fine. Boom. Right there. All right. So basically what it's doing, like I said, we're doing a white point on a black, just revealing the displacement. All right. So let's get out of this. Now we're going to take this paint, just increase the size. Make sure we have that selected. All right, there we go. You already see how the effects is taking place. Dang, that looks good already. Yeah. Just need to adjust it a little bit more, right? But we're getting that effect really quick, so let's just go ahead and continue to adjust it. All right, first we're going to take this point. I'll take this point too. All right, let's slide this over. Slide this over too. Actually, what we might need to do is just for this point right here. Let's see, can we adjust? All right, let's smooth this point out just a little bit more. I'm going to add that right there. All right, let's see how that looks. Going back to our reference. Actually, this needs a little bit more work too. Looks just... There you go. Let's look at our sole. Let's adjust this point real quick. All right, let's take this point and convert it so we get these handles. I'll go ahead and zoom in on that. All right, that looks good. It's not smooth enough for me. It's really not smooth enough for me. All right, let's see how we can get this smoother. Let's bring this point up. Okay, perfect. Now let's adjust this right here, which is this point. So we're going to leave it right here, and then we're just going to add another paint. We're going to add our brush, right? There we go. We're just going to make this smooth. We'll use our erase tool. Okay, let's see how we can get that just smoother. Filters. No, I don't want to blur all that out. Let's see. All right, we're gonna have to make that bigger, like that big. Oh. You know what I'm gonna have to do? I'm gonna have to add our levels real quick to tighten this up. There you go. Now I can adjust this paint layer better. All right, if you just joined the stream, we're just texturing this Dame 10, and right now we're working on the sole. Just getting the base down, right? All right, let's go ahead and see if we can finesse this just a little bit more. No, that's not gonna work. There we go. All right, we're just going to just paint this out softly. Honestly, I really should be doing this with my drawing tablet, but mouse is just gonna have to do for now. See, this is proof that you don't need anything fancy. You literally can do this with a mouse. So if you don't have a drawing tablet, that's fine. Even though a drawing tablet would make this a little bit more smoother. All right, that's fine. That's fine for now. We're gonna go ahead and adjust this point right here on the actual paint layer. Boom. Gonna select our path. Maybe make the size smaller. And then we're just gonna bring this back like that. Adjust this too. And adjust these also. All right, so once we have that, right? Let's look at the bottom of our shoe. Okay, so let's bring up the displacement. We don't want it all the way. Right, we just want something very subtle. All right, there. And then one thing that we could do to make this just a little bit sharper, we can add a levels on top of this, right? So we're gonna go back to our mask and we're going to add a sharpen, do our levels. Now to see what this is doing, let's look at our mask, right? So with our levels, like with any level, if you use Photoshop, Blender, anything, it's all the same, right? So if we go like, you can see that it's getting tighter, right? If you take the white, it's making it tighter, but keeping those black edges softer. So let's go back and see what we're doing. I'm gonna go to levels. There we go. And then we're just gonna fix this paint layer because it just doesn't look good, right? All right. Just gonna fix this right here. There. Oh, that's a little too much. All right, that doesn't look too bad, right? Now, what we want to do is actually fade this part. Just want to fade that out just a little bit. Let's see the best way to do that. Let's just do it with a paint layer. So we're gonna add another paint layer. Gonna make this bigger. There you go. Actually, we need to. There you go. We're just fading that out just a little bit. So you can see that transition. Because like I said, if we look at the side of the shoe, it's very, very subtle, but you can see how it fades out gradually. I want to say it actually goes to the middle. So this is perfect. Right. Actually, let's do a little bit. Let's make our brush bigger so that it's even smoother. Actually, that's good. There you go. Let's do this side too. Actually, we're gonna make this smaller, right? Just fill that in. To about here. And then we're gonna make our brush bigger again. Just fade that out. Oh, that looks really good. Oh, but did we? Okay, that's fine. We'll just use the eraser for that. Boom. And then we're gonna take the eraser, just bring this part back. What's going on here? Oh, shoot. Okay, I see what's going on. We have to go back to this paint layer real quick, right? Click our paths. And then we just got to bring our paths in just a little bit like that. Little bit in. There you go. All right, so now I know that was a little tedious, but now let's move on to, the more exciting things. So for this, let's see, where is that? Okay, how exactly are we going to do this? Now, there's a couple ways that we can do this. Let's see. Let's see. What is the best way to go about this? Let's see. So we got the base down. That looks good. Could be a little smoother. Oh, this one's perfect. All right, so really what we need to do is create these patterns, right? But we also need something to cut these lines up. Now we're going to try something. So there's let's see if it's in here. So we're going to create another. Going to go to Soul. Another fill layer. We're going to put it in here. Boom. Add black mask. We're going to go to add filters. And we're going to go to a filter. We're going to go to the filter. Where is that? Okay, mask outline. Hold on, I need to add a generator. This needs to be in my library. Filter. There we go, import. All right, so we have this offset outlines, and this is what we're going to use to make these, shapes, right? So what it does, it takes the mask that we're using and then just create some lines, and you'll see in a moment, right? Okay, as you can see, we have no mask right now. So what I'm going to do is add a paint layer. And now I'm going to use the fill and then select this. All right. So if I put this on the bottom and then we add our filter. All right, you can see what it does. So this is basically the beginning of how we're going to get these shapes, right? So let's go ahead and do a couple more adjustments. Now this is a cool filter. I'm going to show you guys real quick. All right, so this is a cool filter created by, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name, Kiyo Sakuria, right? And I'll show you. He does crazy designs, and he's actually the one who's, gave me a couple tips and pointers on how to make these cool generators and stuff in Substance Painter, right? So that's his name. You can find his filter on his website. All right. There we go. So now it's looking better. Okay. But one thing we don't want this to have this line right here. Okay, so how we're going to fix that, we're going to go to our paint layer, right? Make sure we're looking at us. And go to our paint layer. All right. And then before the offset lines, we're going to add another generator. And we're going to do UV borders. All right, we're gonna finesse this a little bit. I'm gonna show you guys how. Gonna put the contrast out, smooth this up. Right? Balance up. Cause you generally want it to be straight. All right, distance. Okay, we don't want distance to be too much. Like right there. Like boom. All right, that's not what we want, right? So I want to take this, add filter. Okay, I know what's going on here. Paint, filter. Let's go down to maxed outline. Okay. We're going to do inside. Okay, We're gonna have to blur this out tremendously. Okay, let's see how it looks. And then, so that we get this straight line, we're going to have to crop this part out. But first, let's bring up the threshold. Draw back the blur. Bring the width in to right there. And the blur. All right. So now what we're going to do, we could just actually just paint this out. So we're going to add paint. Go to our, just paint this out. Gonna put it top of the mask outline. And then we're just gonna paint this out, right? All right, and then we're gonna turn on our offset outlines, see how it looks. Okay. All right, so we're gonna put a pause on this stream, and we will continue later on in the week. Hope you guys enjoyed this stream. I hope you guys learned something, and stay tuned for the next couple videos coming out. All right, guys, have a blessed week.